Hey y'all, I'm Nikki, sewing blogger at sewuprising.com, and I'm here today with a quick tutorial on how you can take any of your favorite t-shirt patterns and hack them into a trendy color blocked top. This hack is really making sure that we get the lines straight on both the front and the back. One, so that they match up on the sides, and two, so that they look even when they're on your body. So in order to do that, we're going to put our pieces on top of one another, making sure to match up our outside edges and our points where the underarms meet. So I am going to lay my back on top of my front here. It doesn't matter which you lay on top, whatever you're more comfortable with. And make sure you put some sort of pattern weight or something down. I have pins, so that's what we're going to use here to hold them in place. Then you're going to take your ruler and map out how far apart you want your lines to be. For this one, I'm going to do a three-section color block like I have in my photos. So in order to do that, I'm going to start down a little bit. So on a full size, you'd go about an inch down from the underarm. Since this is a smaller pattern that I'm showing you, it's a little smaller, but keep it lined up. So the reason for that inch is you're going to have a ½ inch seam allowance, and then you want about an additional ½ inch where your seams are going to be, so that all of your seams aren't meeting in one point and causing a lot of extra bulk under the underarm. So then I'm going to measure down where I want my next line to be. I'm going to go right at about 2½ inches, so right there. And I'm going to draw another line, making sure we're perpendicular to this inside so that we get a nice straight line, and go like that. Oh, move my pattern pieces. It's hard to do with these tiny ones. So then we'll have color 1 up here on both pieces, color 2, and color 3. So then you're just going to cut along both lines of both pieces at the same time to make sure you're getting them in the right spot. Alright, so at this point our next step is going to be relabeling the pieces. And we do this to make our sewing easier when we go to sew our pieces together. So I just go back, bottom, with an arrow pointing up, back middle, again with an arrow pointing up, and back top, again with an arrow pointing up. Then you would then repeat this process on the front pieces. So you'd move these off to the sides and do it there. The reason for the arrows is so that when you are sewing your 3 pieces back together, you know what side is the top and what side you should connect. I can't tell you how many times I've been doing this and I end up trying to sew my piece in like that, and that's not just going to work very well. So the arrows help you make sure you're going in the same direction. So now that we have our pieces cut, our next step is going to be adding seam allowance. So you can either do this using additional scrap paper, or you can eyeball it. I've done this plenty of times that I just eyeball it, but if you're new to this technique, I would definitely suggest getting additional paper. So you're just going to take a piece of paper. You want to measure down about a ½ inch seam allowance, tape it down, and extend your lines up so that your lines meet. And you're going to do that on the bottom edge of the top, both sides of your middle piece, and the top of your bottom piece. And that's going to give you the seam allowance to be able to connect your 3 color blocked pieces without losing any overall length in the shirt. So you're going to do that for both the back pieces and the top pieces. So I don't have any scrap paper at the moment, so we're just going to pretend that I've gone and added ½ inch seam allowances here, 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 and here. And then our next step is just sewing the front and back together and proceeding as usual. So I like to start at the back top, and I sew this seam here. Again, ½ inch seam allowances, and then I sew this seam here. And then you are going to stop and press very, very well. The trick to making these look professional is making sure you're stopping and pressing all the way through so that your seams lay nice and flat and are virtually invisible. Then we're going to do the same thing with our front pieces. So again, we're imagining that I've already added seam allowance here, 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 and here. And we're going to stitch this together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, stitch this end together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, stop and press, and then we're just going to complete our entire t-shirt pattern like our instructions suggest. No changes from there. Alright, so there you have it, a quick addition to any sewing pattern you already know and love to take it into something totally different. See you next time.